how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Who's
on your list?
Right.
Gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. Our leaders have assembled the largest military presence in Washington in all of American history during peacetime. Those 26,000 federal troops are not there for your safety. Instead, unmistakably, the Democratic Party is using those troops to send the rest of us a message about power. We're in charge now. We run this nation from Honolulu to our colony in the Caribbean and everything in between, very much including where you and your family live. Do not question us. Men with guns enforce our decrees. We control the Pentagon.
These are people who, if Donald Trump said, I'm going to trash you on Twitter unless you go smack your mom in the face, they would go smack their moms in the face and try to explain it to them afterwards.
Maybe there are 50 million jerks in this country. Maybe that's the sad truth. And how do we manage that? Because Joe Biden is doing everything right. And when you see that sign and you see, maybe there's a chunk of us that really suck as human beings.
Joe Biden is doing every single thing right, and everybody else a bunch of Nazis and fascists and jerks that suck.
I'm guessing that you, person watching this right now, have silenced yourself because you don't want to suffer the wrath of the outrage mob. So let me ask the question, who is tolerant? Well, here's the surprise. It's actually those scary right-wingers that the media and the universities demonize every day. I speak from personal experience. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment here, but I still consider myself a liberal. And it's my duty as a liberal to say what I think. I would rather stand for what I believe and be hated than bow down and be loved. The left, sadly, has become utterly intolerant of anyone with whom they disagree. Why? Because they believe that they know how you should live and how you should think. Any deviation, any nonconformity is dangerous to that goal.
It's really bizarre, isn't it, when you think about how AWOL so many of these members of Congress have gotten. But I also think some of them are believing the garbage that they are being fed 24/7 on the internet by their constituents, and they bought into this big lie. And the question is, how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
Tolerance. It's a word we hear a lot these days, so let's define it. Tolerance is the ability to live with people whose opinions and behavior you don't agree with. That's essentially how Oxford defines it, how Merriam-Webster defines it, and how we as a society have always defined it. You might be for the death penalty and your cousin might be against it. You might be against a $15 minimum wage and your coworker might be for it. Your dad might have voted for Trump, your mom might have voted for Clinton, and your brother may not have voted at all. Whatever differences we have, tolerating others' opinions is a prerequisite to a functioning and free society. America itself was built on a foundation of tolerance. The Declaration of Independence guarantees us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there's an implicit contract there. To have your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness, you have to be tolerant of somebody else's life, their liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. This contract, though, seems to be breaking down.
Because it was the courteous thing to do, considering the alternative.
Well, a childish moment from the Speaker of the House, a rejected handshake. There was chanting, audible groans, all while the president spoke of a booming economy and America's great comeback.
Well, it's pretty unbelievable. I mean, the fact that she would tear a government document up and destroy it like that in itself is just wrong. But, you know, I mean, look, President Trump has done such great things for our economy and for our country, and the other side is just can't come to those terms. And I think we hit a new low with what she did last night with that speech to not only his face, but to America's face.
If you listen to the mainstream media, only one side is living up to this deal, the left. The right, according to the media, is intolerant of everyone. except those darned white heterosexual Christian males. There's only one problem. It's just not true. Incredibly, the left isn't even tolerant of the very people they say they're tolerant of. If you're gay or black or an immigrant and you're not in lockstep with current leftist orthodoxy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you believe we should judge people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin, the left calls you racist. If you believe that America is a nation of immigrants, but that our country should also protect its borders, the left calls you a xenophobe. If you believe that men and women are equal but fundamentally different, the left calls you sexist. Here's the thing, those who only tolerate people they agree with or like aren't actually tolerant. So who is tolerant? Is it the Antifa thugs who caused UC Berkeley to spend $600,000 on security when mainstream conservative Ben Shapiro showed up to give a talk? Or is it Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters who scolded Kanye West for talking out of turn when he dared suggest that blacks should think for themselves?
Will you shut up, man? Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right.
Gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
What is needed now is for us to listen to one another, not to silence one another. All of us can choose by our actions to rise above the rancor and find common ground and shared purpose. We must focus on advancing the interests of the whole nation, delivering the miracle vaccines, defeating the pandemic, rebuilding the economy, protecting our national security, and upholding the rule of law. Today, I am calling on all Americans to overcome the passions of the moment and join together as one American people. Let us choose to move forward united for the good of our families, our communities, and our country. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Believe it or not, the right these days actually welcomes diversity of thought. I can tell you that in the last few years of my political evolution, I've consistently found conservatives to be tolerant and open-minded. Don't take my word for it, though. Test it out for yourself. Go talk to some. They do exist, and they do things like watch movies, travel, and eat ethnic food. You know, regular people things. You know what I found out? The right, much more than the left, believes in the notion of live and let live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the true definition of tolerance.
Regardless of the current rhetoric, would either of you name one positive thing that you respect in one another?
Well, I certainly will, because I think that's a very fair and important question. Look, I respect his children.
Well, I consider her statement about my children to be a very nice compliment. I don't know if it was meant to be a compliment. I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that. I tell it like it is. She's a fighter. I disagree with much of what she's fighting for. I do disagree with her judgment in many cases. But she does fight hard, and she doesn't quit, and she doesn't give up, and I consider that to be a very good trait.